heavyweight.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Couch Podcast. My name's Hussein the Brain, and we are joined with the Dynasty Day Trader. This is basically his episode, two-part episode. So this episode and next episode. He is Dynasty Day Trader. He is the tight end shaman. He is Sue Shane, here to talk about Dynasty, here to talk about the NFL draft, and also record break. You say world record. World record breaking coach, right? Three.
Back
to back.
Appreciate
it. You're part of that dynasty. You are.
We are. Yeah, I am.
On that dynasty. Yeah. 3 championships for the National Junior College Association football, back to back to back. It's like the Patriots. It's
like the Patriots. We're going for the 4-peat this year.
The 4-peat. That sounds weird, but it would be dope. The word sounds weird, but yeah.
It's got to be the next one, right? That's what matters.
Yeah.
Hey, I appreciate that.
4-peat. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Hey, man. We're only 2 weeks away, though, from the NFL draft, right? That's why I'm here. That's what we want to talk about today. And, could the Chiefs go back-to-back? Well, they just kind of lost their wide receiver, but the strong receiver class, yeah? So it kind of works in that regard where, it's not the optimal situation, but they could definitely find a replacement. Another high-powered team, Buffalo Bills, Stephon Diggs, could they find a replacement? This would be the class to do it. But Couch, let me take a step back for you real quick. It's been a little bit since we've last talked. I think last time we were here, Justin Fields was still on the Bears, and we were debating, about that whole situation and everything. Have you looked into the 2024 class at all? Do you know anything besides, the Caleb Williamses and the Marvin Harrisons? Or are we kind of going in blind here today?
I know a little bit, but overall I'm going in blind. I did want to make a little intro. I want to do a life update. So, you're going for the 4-peat. This will likely be, these next 2 podcast episodes will likely be my last podcast for fantasy football, for Fantasy Couch. I'm transitioning now. I'm much happier. I didn't know how stressful this was for someone like me who loves just introvert all the way, just loves, chilling. It was so, I love doing 1 video a week, but then it got to doing 2, 3. And then for a while with Patreon, I'm doing 8 videos a week total. And then I was like, man, it's torture for someone like me. Cause I hate being on camera that often. Once a week that's nothing. Twice a week, that's great. But with all the pressure and this and that, I like being alone. So I didn't realize how much I would love just having more of a normal lifestyle and job. And it's been great. I've been transitioning into the AI world. So I'm doing a lot of social media marketing for AI. Yeah, for AI companies. And it's the new gold mine. People are making I don't know if that qualifies as a billionaire, but 1 billion plus, not millions anymore. People are making 1 billion plus, or starting to, or they will next year. The 1 billion, it's going crazy. I mean, who knows? Maybe AI would be doing this podcast in 4 or 5 years. It's blowing up. It's going crazy. So that's my life update. Also, more importantly, some people may hate that news. Some people may be like, oh, that's great. Do your thing. Whatever it is, it's fine. But I do have something. That's not it. I do have something. like the last 4 or 5 years, I've got a request to do a certain type of video or just been asked a question. So the number one hottest question that I keep getting asked, I'm going to do a video about that on the main channel. I'm going to answer
Ooh,
that video. It's gonna be more of like a educational, like kind of like a how to. I don't. Yeah, I don't. You know what? I'm not gonna talk about it. I already said too much. But I will be doing that video amongst other videos on the Fantasy Couch main channel, and that will likely be my send off, my goodbye on the main channel, and that'll be it. I do plan to post to Fantasy Couch channels very seldomly in the future, more as a diary. So like me and you are in the league. I'll probably
sure.
record the draft, that like the Empire League, our rookie draft. I'll probably record it, do like almost no editing, no host, like just so people, if they wanted to check the video, like it's not about me doing the YouTube thing anymore. It's not about me getting views and spot, like none of that. I just want to do it as a diary. Hey, we've been recording this. Maybe a couple people still wonder how's the league going, or they just want to see
Sure.
our league, and it's going to be there. And if nobody cares, that's fine too. It'll be there for us. All I got to do is hit the record button and tell Scout not to cuss. He'll cuss. Oh,
Sorry for cussing.
so I'm clean. I'm a businessman now. I'm in the AI world. There's gonna be no cussing still. No cussing. We'll
Oh
still
yeah.
keep that going. Other than the no cussing, though, it's gonna be no editing. Use it kind of like a journal. So hopefully, you guys are, at least excited. And I wish everybody the best when it comes to fantasy football. I'm still gonna be a player. With that being said, 2024 draft is coming up. So I'm going to give it over to Sue Shane and let's dive right into the draft.
Yeah, I got a little too excited. So, with this being the last couple podcasts, we're going to make this one a banger. The objective here today is if you guys know nothing about this class, you're going to walk out of here and next week and become an expert just in time for the first pick to be on the clock Thursday, April 25th in Detroit. Now, Couch, in fantasy football, people love the 2024 class. Nowadays, dynasty rosters are getting built with super flex in mind, right? So quarterbacks are at the forefront of everyone's mind all the time. Receivers are now becoming the building blocks. We had a little bit of a tight end kind of resurgence in the past season, right? But what kind of, and I'm trying to find words here to describe this one. I don't want to say it's overrated for fantasy football, okay? Because it's not. It should be rated very highly, okay?
Overhyped?
Overhyped,
Overvalued a little
overvalued
bit?
a
Just a
little
little
bit,
bit? Yeah,
just a
just a
little
little.
bit,
Okay.
yeah. And the reason why I say this is because this 2024 draft is actually better for an NFL executive than it is a fantasy football manager, right? So the top, in my opinion, and I think this is becoming more of a consensus as more and more people, draft analysts, football fans, coaches, anything, are looking into this class, it's more and more apparent that the offensive line, specifically the offensive tackle class, is the strongest position group of the draft. Okay. After that, in my opinion, it's kind of like a three-way tie between pass rushers, corners, DBs, and wide receivers. So of those four groups, only one of them is for fantasy football, it's receivers. Now, people will say this is a strong quarterback class. I do agree. Prospect-wise, it is a quarterback class, a strong one. But you've seen what happened with 2021, right? Like I was sitting here saying the exact same thing. Trevor Lawrence is great. Zach Wilson, people like. I was a big Trey Lance guy. A lot of people were Justin Fields guys. We thought Mac Jones was, kind of a safe floor player. All of that went to dust. I think
It's no
Trevor Lawrence is the
secret
only guy.
that quarterbacks are the biggest misses in
Yeah,
drafts. Like this is not like I've seen the videos
nothing new.
about it. Like this not it's people they reach or they trade up or they go super early. They're the franchise, they're taking all these photographs, they have these articles, written about them, and then like
Exactly.
they're Blake Bortles. Name some old Jaguars quarterback. I don't know.
Blake
They're one of those.
Bortles, Chad
Blake
Pennington. I
Bortles
think that
did
was
better.
Miami.
Who's the guy on the Niners? He was on the Niners with
Oh,
Kaepernick and
Blaine
Chip
Gabbert.
Kelly.
Blaine
Blaine
Gabbert.
Gabbert. That's the
Oh
guy I want
yeah,
to say. Yeah, because Blake Bortles had a little moment. He almost
he
won
did.
me $1
He did.
million on FanDuel. If not for Rob Gronkowski that day, almost won $1 million. he was willing. It was that 1 year, but still, I mean, he
Oh
was
yeah,
killing it. Allen Robinson and Allen Hearns or
Alan
something.
Hearns. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh
they were
man, you're
wheeling
taking
and
me way
dealing.
back now.
Almost beat the Patriots. So, but still, yeah, that guy sucks. But more so, yeah, Blaine Gabbert, and I think they had other quarterbacks too. You don't even remember.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
Chad
many.
Henne was on that team. Yeah. Anyway.
Something like that. But and another thing, right? People always say, and this is not just football guys. They always say, the single most important position in all of sports is the quarterback. So I mean, it becomes just so glorified. And when draft fever, draft hype obviously exists, now we're talking about the quote unquote most important position of all time in all sports. Man, people really get going. And that's really the headliner here. But even though it's a strong class, it's definitely a kind of a hit or miss type thing, right? So, not suggesting that this class is bad for rookies or for fantasy football rookie draft. It's just way better for NFL executives. So, all the stuff you're hearing in the 2024 class is really, really good. It applies more to the NFL, but still does apply to us, right? With that being said, though, I want to shift over to the right side of that. You may have to zoom in just a little bit. I have kind of like a top 5 big board, if you will, right? This is going to be all the way top right corner, Couch.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
So
here.
this is basically my top 5 players. Forget about, this is not a mock draft. Okay. This is not a positional value type thing where, quarterback is worth the most. So I got to pump up quarterbacks. This is simply like, hey, who do I think pound for pound is the best player on the draft board if every single position was equally important, basically.
Yeah, these are your top. Also, these are your top 5 guys as a generic GM. Like you don't know the roster,
Yeah.
the roster's blank, and these would be your top 5 guys you would like in this draft the most.
Correct. So when you take a look at this, and I'll read it out for the audio listeners here. Number 1 is the quarterback, Caleb Williams. No secret there. Number 2 is the wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. Number 3 is the left tackle prospect of Notre Dame, Joe Alt. And then 4 and 5 rounded out with 2 more receivers, Malik Neighbors from LSU and Rome Odunze from Washington. So you look at this top 5, Couch, and you say to yourself, hold on, wait a second. Seuss just told me that, the offensive line and the pass rush class are stronger, but I look at his top 5 and he's got 3 receivers. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that, hey, these 3 receivers are darn good, and that's probably why, receivers are very, valued highly as a whole in this draft. But the depth, at least compared to the tackles and the pass rushers, might be a little bit, to use your word earlier, overvalued or overhyped, right? We'll get into that a little bit more in detail in just a second here, but let's start with the headliners. Let's start with the quarterbacks, Couch. And, no secret here, my QB1 is Caleb Williams for 2 reasons. I'm going to keep this very simple for 2 reasons, right? I've realized throughout the last 3, 4, 5 years, I've hit big on quarterbacks. I've also missed equally big on quarterbacks, all right? I've realized it's 2 things. 1 is talent, and 2 is the situation. So in my opinion, I'm going to keep this very simple because we've talked about Caleb Williams a lot. I want to kind of keep it moving here. Caleb Williams is the most talented player in this rookie quarterback class. And last time we talked, Couch, the Bears did not have Keenan Allen, nor did they have DeAndre Swift. They have both of those guys now. This Bears team on offense, at least, is looking like one of the better situations for a rookie quarterback, not just in this year's draft, but kind of like ever. Especially
Yeah, I totally agree.
Right.
Now, I
crazy.
don't want to. Now, I do think some people may be thinking this. So there's a lot of memes, quite possibly the most memes I've ever seen about Caleb Williams as I've seen about any prospect. Like I talked about it extensively, I think, on a video a few years ago. I was like, Mac Jones has 2 DUIs, and when I researched, I could only find 1. But I see that on every meme page, and
Yeah.
when I say meme, I'm being very serious here. Is like a lot of people are affected by memes because like who's like what are you reading? Sports Illustrated? Like what is out there? It's all a bunch of internet forums and Reddit and Discord and meme
Right.
pages and unreliable news or some most of the time reliable. Like this is what people are doing. They're digesting this stuff on places like Instagram, for example.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure. It's everywhere.
there's been a ton of memes, and one funny one is, of course, what you just said. Now, this one has no impact. This is just funny and true. Was
Sure.
like the Bears started building around their quarterback just after Fields left. Like they didn't do it for they waited for this guy to be gone. All right,
Yep.
now let's help out our
Now let's do it.
quarterback.
Yep.
Not you, but the guy who's like a real quarterback, not you. You're like a kind of
Oh
like a
yeah.
project. Like go on to another team. So that's just funny.
Yeah.
But
Justin Fields is like the guinea pig. I feel you.
yeah, I mean it is what you know what it's just funny, but I don't think it would have worked anyway because I don't think he is like it turns out NFL GMs viewed him the same exact way I did. Like this guy's good, like he's got potential, but like not a franchise QB, not now.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
just
No. No.
what are you gonna do with that? There's a bunch of those type of quarterbacks, or like those quarterbacks are there. It's trying to find a top 10 one that'll win you a couple playoff games. That's the tough part. Anyway, the second meme goes back to a discussion me and you had. Now, this is funny. I wish I was gonna find it. Whatever. I didn't find anything good to show you guys, but found something. Basically, let me just be straight. A lot of meme pages are making fun of Caleb Williams is gay. He looks gay. He's got painted nails. He wears a dress. Like
Right.
I'm
Right.
like, man, this stuff, like, this is wild. He's like, he's like responding to this, and I'm like, man, I like my quarterback not to be above this or whatever. And me and you briefly talked about that, and I was like, oh, he's like, in a car like a Ferrari or something. I mentioned, I'm like, oh, like we're looking at it. And then you mentioned something I didn't know, and I
About
swear
Trubisky. Yeah.
it sounded
I know.
fake when you first said it,
I
and
know.
turns out it was right. So the Bears drafted Trubisky because he drove a beat up Toyota.
That's the one.
So after I read
Oh
that,
my
I was
god.
like, I don't know, maybe all this stuff I'm saying, and especially the memes, are kind of silly because it's like, oh, Trubisky, he's the guy. He has the look. He's got the attitude. He drives his grandma's car. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I'm like, bro, this guy's a 4th-string quarterback on an NFL team. 5th string, maybe.
Dude,
Like
the Steelers don't want him.
he's
I mean, that's telling.
he's so whack, bro. Like Josh Dobbs is
Yeah.
better than him. That bird watcher, who's the bird caller guy? Man, on the
Bird.
Steelers. He was on the Steelers. Mason Rudolph. No.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
And then I don't even know the duck caller, whatever. I don't know. Like I'm
Whatever
getting
it
all
is,
the
yeah,
quarterbacks
something like
mixed
that.
up. But that guy, Kenny Pickett. So like, this guy's the 4th best quarterback on his team. And if you had Big Ben there, and then maybe you had Josh Dobbs, that's like he'd be like the 5th-string quarterback on the Steelers, if you count all the quarterbacks the last 3-4 years. So it's like that's Trubisky. He sucks. So I'm like, man, you know what? Like what am I gonna judge it? Like he can play. He looks electric. Like I don't know. Like as long as he doesn't, pull like do anything like a Rasheed Rice or anything off the field, then like who am I to judge? We miss on quarterbacks all the time anyway. Like
Yeah.
it's just a
50-50,
crazy.
everyone
It's a
pretty
weird
much.
thing. It's a weird thing.
It
Like they
is.
drafted Trubisky because he drove a beat up Toyota. Anyway, I just wanted to address that if some people are still like, man, I don't know about that Caleb Williams dude. Well, I mean, just if you go off that logic, which I'm not really hating on you for saying that, then you have to say that Mitch Trubisky is the next Joe Montana. If you go off with the car he drives and like how he conducts himself. I mean, this guy's the best. Like this
He's
guy's
it.
the
He's
greatest.
him. He's
Yeah.
him, baby.
So maybe we just
Beat up
don't
Toyota.
factor that in too much. I just had to, because bro, dude, it's so many memes out. Like it's crazy how much people are talking and making fun of Caleb Williams right now.
Oh, I get that. I get that. I mean, hey, my bottom line is the talent and the situation is just too good to pass up. And, the one thing that I will add that I have not said before, I've been kind of 50-50 on it, kind of thinking about it, Couch. If you're in Superflex, you just got to take him at first overall. I don't care if you need a receiver. Let's say you have a Dak Prescott.
Or trade him away. Or trade away that pick for a.
No,
You
no.
wouldn't even entertain an overpay. You just
Yeah,
I'm
I
taking
wouldn't
this
even.
guy. This doesn't come along often. I'll take him.
Yeah, yep. That's
Gotcha.
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, like if
That's a
I
good
had
way to
like a Dak
quantify it.
Prescott and a Kirk Cousins, and I had the first overall pick, it might be beneficial for my roster to be like, hey, get Marvin Harrison, get Malik Neighbors, whatever receiver I like. No, I would just trade away Dak or Kirk and draft Caleb. Like it's one of these types of things. We just don't really see this. Those are the perfect words, like you just said. We don't really see this very often. Let's move on though, because there's only one Caleb Williams, and more than likely, once the second pick is on the clock, both NFL and in your fantasy draft, the Caleb talk is over. Now Caleb is off the board. We got to deal with everyone else. Couch. Here's where it gets interesting. Let's look at the NFL draft. Second overall pick, Washington Commanders. Third overall, New England Patriots. When I look at these rosters, I'm not the biggest fan of Washington. Okay, I'm not saying that this is a team that's ready to go or not. But at least they have some infrastructure on offense. They have Terry McLaurin. That's a pretty good receiver. They have Jahan Dotson. A little bit of a disappointment, but he can play. Brian Robinson, the opposite of a disappointment. He's a pleasant surprise. I think they just signed Austin Eckler as well. So, they have some guys. Zach Ertz at tight end. Again, it's not the sexiest team, but again, they're picking 2 overall, and at least they have some infrastructure on offense. What we don't know is if they're going to pick Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Okay, as of right now, as of today, the wind is blowing in the Jaden Daniels direction. Okay, but if we look at New England's roster, they got nothing. They got nothing. So I'm just going to tell you right now. Some would say the
worst.
Yeah, they could be. They could be the worst team in all of football. Honestly, either them
at least on offense. Offense. That's offense. Yeah. Not
even
defense.
Defense, it's getting a little older.
Yeah, it's not great, but I'm specifically the offense, though. Sure. Who's the number one? Kendrick Bourne or KJ Osborne?
Yeah, KJ Osborne, and they got Juju Schuster still. I think that's basically it.
Juju expired
way expired.
Yeah, he expired like 15 months ago.
And they got nothing on the offensive line either. I think their best player on offense is probably Ramondre Stevenson. That's an issue. That's a problem for just a team build in general, right? We talked about the devaluation of RBs. That's a problem.
Smo says the defense is good.
To the rescue.
I believe him. I believe him. But who cares? We're talking offense though. They could be the worst.
Quarterbacks. Situation for quarterbacks, right?
Maybe Giants could be, but they're bottom 2 though. They're bottom 2, bottom 3 in offense. Easily.
Yeah, easily, no question, right? So when we're talking about Jaden Daniels and Drake May, all right, so many people want to say, oh, Jaden Daniels is so much better, or Drake May is my 2. You're an idiot for having anyone else as your 2. That's cool, all right? But what I'm going to think about this is like, all right, hey, which one's going to Washington? Which one's going to New England? Because if Drake May goes to Washington, then guess what? I'm going to have him as my QB2 most likely. And if Jaden Daniels goes to New England, oh boy. Or if vice versa, Jaden Daniels goes to Washington like we expect today, and Drake May goes to New England, yikes, no thanks, all right? And then on top of that couch, there's one more added wrinkle. Minnesota Vikings, about a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, they made this really funny move that you don't really see, at least from high-level executives at that time in the draft, unless they have another plan cooking. And they basically moved the pick from around the 40s into the 20s, which, why do you not make this move now? Because you don't know if the specific guy you want at 20 is going to be there, because, there's like 15 to 20 players going to be taken ahead of him, right? Makes sense, logically. But when you look at the trade, what really happened was, don't look at it from, oh, they moved off a guy in the 40s and moved up into the 20s. You want to think of this as they acquired another first round pick. This is trade ammunition that they are building up. They now hold in this year's draft the 11th overall selection and the 23rd overall selection. That's 2 first round picks. They also still have their first round pick in next year's 2025 draft. They have the whole draft class for that. So they have seconds, thirds, fourths, all that good stuff, right? If they make a move for, let's say, JJ McCarthy, let's say they trade, I think 4th overall Arizona Cardinals, 5th overall Los Angeles Chargers have put out that they are open for business to trading down. I mean, Couch, how can you tell me that a guy who, yes, I think he's less talented than Jaden Daniels or Drake May. But when we look at the situation, it's like, okay, JJ McCarthy, if he's on the Vikings, would be surrounded with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison,
stacked.
TJ Hawkins. It's stacked.
Stacked, yeah.
And the Patriots got nothing. So how on earth could I put, let's say it's Drake May to the Patriots, just for example. How could I put Drake May ahead of JJ McCarthy? It makes no sense. All right. So I want you guys to think of it like that instead of being very hung up on like, oh, I like this prospect better than that. It's cool to rank him as prospects. I get it. I have my own preference too. I prefer Jaden Daniels to Drake May as a prospect. I'll put it out there right now. That's where I'm at. Fine. But please understand that these landing spots are they're quite different. There's a big discrepancy between New England and Washington, and then Washington to Minnesota, right? Big discrepancies there.
This doesn't always happen though, but it is the scenario for this year. And
yeah,
I just want to say, like, the QB8 and in fantasy, the QB8 and the QB16, there's almost no difference. It's not a big deal. You're getting 1 more fantasy point per game. And that's kind of what Drake May is. We're not expecting him to be top 5, top 6 quarterback early on in his career. Probably not. Right.
Probably not, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, let's just an example, just total hypothetical. Let's say you love Drake May. He's like, man, I think this guy can be QB8 this year in fantasy, which is nuts. I know. And you're like, JJ McCarthy could be QB16. But if they're switched, like JJ McCarthy's all of a sudden now on a good team, then I mean, just looking at stats from how much I play fantasy, just the basic stats here, it's not advanced stuff. JJ McCarthy's better. It's just boom. Like, it's just a fact. Like, if you're just talking about just your projections, now you have to put JJ McCarthy ahead because the difference already wasn't that big when you're talking about fantasy points.
Yeah.
So we're talking fantasy points here. It's not that big. It's not Lamar Jackson versus Blake Bortles. That's not. Those are different. Those are two
totally different scenario. We're dealing
two different galaxies there. Yeah, we're talking about totally different things. I'm talking about Drake May versus JJ McCarthy. So that's probably going to be a lot closer. Probably going to be maybe only 1 fantasy point there. Maybe I don't. We're kind of talking hypotheticals. I know we've seen it before. We've had huge busts. Maybe one is a huge bust and one becomes really good. But just saying, like just typically how it goes.
Right. Just hypotheticals. I mean, that's why people do mock draft exercises. That's why when people do their rookie mock drafts for their rookie drafts, they prepare for their fantasy drafts. They use a mock draft that they see online. So they say, hey, okay, if this situation plays out, how does my prospect rankings get affected and such, right? So that's basically what we're doing here with these hypotheticals. I just want to kind of round out the rest of the class here, okay? So while JJ McCarthy is getting the most hype, most steam, I mean, I can't really go a day on ESPN without running into something, it seems, with JJ McCarthy. That's how much he's getting talked about now, right? It's crazy. He's still, in my opinion, generally speaking, a wild card, okay? Now, if we're talking just how do I grade him out, I have a round 2 NFL draft grade on JJ McCarthy. Now, I understand that in the NFL, quarterbacks are very important. You got to find your signal caller. You got to find your face of the franchise. So, if I'm an NFL GM with a round 2 grade on JJ McCarthy, I think I probably would be okay taking him in the 20s. Okay, but what you're hearing is that this guy is going to go top 10. What you're hearing is that this guy, someone could trade to the 4th overall pick. It could be QB, 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 4 straight QBs, which you've never seen before. You're hearing that type of stuff, which to me, that's not something I would do. Okay, it's just not. It's because JJ McCarthy, while he has a lot of traits, while he has shown the ability to, manage the game supremely and not make any mistakes, he hasn't shown the ability to, carry the team on his back because he wasn't asked to do that. Okay, I understand there's going to be some pushback here where people are going to say third downs. Look at his third downs. That's when basically Michigan's game plan is first down, run the ball, second down, run the ball, third down. Now JJ McCarthy do something, and he does it. I get that. That's why I have a round 2 grade on him. Keep in mind, who are some quarterbacks that I've had a round 2 grade on in the past? Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love. So these are guys that I think are developmental that could be something, but we need to bring it out of them. We need to bring it out of them a little bit. So JJ McCarthy is in that kind of light for me, although he is getting hyped up to be a top 10 guy. So just keep that on your radar. As far as fantasy football rookie drafts go, Couch, look, whether you like it or not, you better prepare for 4 quarterbacks going in your first round. I'm talking fantasy football rookie drafts now. I don't care what you think of JJ McCarthy. I don't care how high or low you are on Drake May. There will be 4 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks of every single super flex fantasy football rookie draft. That's just how it is. Caleb probably going to go 1 overall, like I was mentioning earlier. The other 2 guys, Drake May and Jaden Daniels, kind of depends on what order they go. Maybe JJ McCarthy goes to Minnesota, so he sneaks somewhere in between them, right? Those guys are probably going to round out your top 5. Maybe, someone needs a receiver, so one of the quarterbacks gets pushed to like 6, 7, okay? But if you need a quarterback and you've got the 11th overall pick or the 2.02, man, you're going to have to move up. Unless you're okay with settling with the next tier of guys that we're about to discuss here. But if you want one of those top 4 guys, you're going to have to move up, okay? Let's finish off the rest of the class here. Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, Bo Nix from Oregon, and Michael Penix from Washington. Couch, I have a similar grade on these guys. All of them, I think, have upside. All of them, I think, have legitimate question marks, okay? The reason why I'm putting Spencer Rattler, first on this list is because he's the guy that no one's talking about. Okay, people are talking about Bo Nix and Michael Penix. These are 2 guys who have been in college for a very long time.
Yeah, I never hear Rattler's name when I turn on the TV.
It's only NFL executives. I'm telling you. You're not
I
hearing
hear
it from
all
any
these
of
other
the
guys'
guys.
names except Rattler.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, right? I don't think, and this is based on what I'm hearing, which is exactly what you were just alluding to. I don't think Spencer Rattler will go ahead of Bo Nix or Michael Penix. I don't think that's going to happen because it seems like these guys, the other 2 guys, are getting more hype. But, I mean, again, just like we were talking about earlier, quarterback's kind of a crapshoot, a little 50-50. We don't really know till we know. Man, I mean, just from an evaluation tape perspective, I don't see why Spencer Rattler is considered much worse than Bo Nix or Michael Penix. It doesn't make sense to me. In fact, if we're just looking at playmaking ability, like the rushing upside and everything, I would argue Spencer Rattler has the highest rushing upside of these 3 guys. Okay, Bo Nix is more like a pocket passer with some mobility, all right? And I prefer him to Michael Penix just because it seems, in between the temples for Bo Nix that he's figured out some stuff. He's been in college for 6 years, so good to see it. With Michael Penix, he's got a cannon of an arm, which is great. Passing yards should be big plays and all that stuff should be up there. Good. But he doesn't offer much as a runner. I'm not saying he's unathletic or immobile or a statue, but that's just not his game. His game is from the pocket, right? Where Spencer Rattler, that's your guy who's going to, bootleg action, make those crazy sidearm throws and stuff like that. He's your playmaker, right? So it's kind of interesting to me that the most exciting player of the 3 to watch in my opinion at least, the most exciting or the most, tantalizing on TV, like, ooh, that type of stuff is not talked about. But I mean, hey, I get it because I mean, this is a guy who was supposed to be the first overall pick a couple years back. He got replaced by Caleb Williams. He lost his job to Caleb Williams, who's the first pick now, and from there, people have a little bit of a sour taste. So I get that, but that's basically your quarterback class. I don't really care for anyone else after this. I know people are interested in like Jordan Travis or Joe Milton. Joe Milton sucks, by the way. Don't even waste a pick on him. If you're an NFL team, don't waste a pick. I think one last thing, then we can move on here. I think if a team spent a 7th round draft pick on Joe Milton, that's a waste of a draft pick. And we're talking 7th rounders, all right? So this guy sucks. Anyway.
The Rams will do it, don't worry.
and knowing Sean McVay, he'll turn him into a god.
Awesome. Oh no, I didn't see that coming.
There you go. Full circle there. Okay. So that's the headliner, all right? Let's talk about the strengths of the class. And I'm not going to go through Couch and sit here and list off every single tackle prospect and sit here and talk to you about run blocking and low pad level and blocking low to high and footwork. We're not doing that, okay? But let me ask you this, and this is not a trick question. This is not a trick question because there is no tampering this year. How many picks are in the first round of the NFL draft?
Was this a trick question?
It's not a trick question.
Did somebody make a boo-boo and lose it? It's typically 32, right? Isn't it typically 32?
It's 32. Okay. Again, I'm not going to list off any names here, but Couch, I have 10 tackles on your screen right now. These are tackles only.
For first round?
First round.
Oh, boy.
All 10 of them first round. And that doesn't include some guards and centers. Let's add maybe 1 or 2 guys to that list. That's 12 out of 32. That's basically 1/3 of the first round is on offensive linemen that none of us can draft in fantasy football. Just keep that in mind, okay? So when I say that, yes, my big board top 5 has 3 receivers and a quarterback, it looks super sexy for fantasy football. Well, it ain't like O-line. Because this is going to take 1/3 of night one, okay? So that's the first takeaway. The second takeaway, however, and this is a big one. All right? This is going to get into our discussion back into fantasy football here. So I've got 10 guys here. Let's call it 12 because there's a couple of interior offensive linemen that I didn't post here, all right? Couch, I'm not suggesting that all 12 of these guys become success stories in the NFL. It's not like quarterback where it's a 50-50 rate. It's definitely a little bit higher for offensive linemen, but it's still never 100%. Some of these guys will be bust. Some of these guys will not pan out. Some of these guys will just be okay, not great, right? But let's just say it's like, 8 out of 12. Let's say 75% are success stories. Couch, that means 25% of the league just got a huge boost to their offensive line unit in one night. That's huge for running backs. That's huge for quarterbacks. Quarterbacks need protection, but that's also huge for running backs. Okay, so when we look at these teams, when we're saying, okay, who's going to draft some of the top tackles, the top offensive linemen, and what type of RBs do they have on their team? What if Tampa Bay, for example, they already have a decent offensive line? What if they further solidify their offensive line? Green Bay, for example, they just got Josh Jacobs, right? They have all these weapons around Jordan Love, skill players. What if they get offensive line help? That kind of helps Josh Jacobs, doesn't it, right? So those are just a couple scenarios, a couple ideas. So, you're not going to see running backs go in the first round of this NFL draft. Okay, that's going to be Thursday night, April 25th. Couch, you might not even see a running back go on the second round, which would be on Friday to begin the draft.
That's like impossible.
You might not see in the first 2 rounds. If anything,
but
you one guy.
There's somebody that'll do it though. I feel like.
Sure.
But
so
I get your point though. Your point still stands. So,
yeah. But your point's also valid. There's gonna be one dumb idiot Probably Jerry Jones.
or a smart guy. Hey, who knows? Maybe
Hey,
they
or a
see
smart guy. Or a
yeah, but
smart guy,
somebody.
right?
Yeah, it just takes one team. Yeah.
Exactly. My point though is that, hey, when you're watching night one of the draft, definitely, start jotting down the wide receivers and the quarterback because those are going to fly off the board. But at least keep in mind, keep an open eye on which teams with established RBs are getting offensive line help because that's going to help out the running backs. And again, we're talking in dynasty, we're kind of treating running backs not completely like redraft, but we're certainly trying to operate in shorter windows now because that's what the NFL is doing. So going for that season by season situation is definitely going to help you out. Let's go into the actual running back class though, okay? Which to me, it's not terrible. It's just not terrible. It's not great. We just got Bijan got picked. What was that? 8th overall. Jameer Gibbs 12th overall. So it's not like that. But man, when I was going through the film and I was I don't really do player comparisons, Couch. I think you know this by knowing me for a couple of years, but I do comparisons where it's like value, right? Like, how does this guy compare to a guy like, if we're talking running backs, like Najee Harris? Or how does he compare to a guy like Ken Walker as far as fantasy value and as far as, the points you could potentially expect in the situation and whatnot, right? And in my opinion, I see 3 running backs that I'm actually kind of interested in. And this is a little bit surprising to me, right? I was I was thinking I was gonna go into this class, me being a really stingy RB person in general already. I only like Saquon and CMC and Bijan and Brees Hall and the studs of all studs. That's what I build my roster with. You're not gonna find guys like, like Isaiah Spiller and those types of guys on my roster, right? I was surprised that I found 3 guys. The first one, and to me, there's a little bit of a difference between number 1 and number 2 and 3. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do my tiers here. The first one is Jonathan Brooks from Texas. And Couch, let's go back here. Texas. That was where Bijan Robinson went. Yeah, do you remember? He was drafted last year.
Roshan.
Roshan as well, right? What did we say about Roshan Johnson? We said, well, Roshan is a relatively unproven guy. He has the size, he has the traits, but he's relatively unproven. And the reason why he was unproven was because he was the RB2 to Bijan Robinson. So the same thing applies here to Jonathan Brooks, where it's like, we didn't really see much because he was behind Bijan Robinson and Roshan Johnson. But guess what? Guess what happened? Last year, both of them got drafted, and now it's Jonathan Brooks' backfield. It's his time to shine. And what did he do? Oh, he shined. He shined, baby. This guy looked incredible. He was getting the good workload. We're talking 20 plus touches or carries per game. We're talking as far as the skill set that he brings in between the tackles, can bounce outside, can catch passes, decent at pass pro. Not perfect, but decent, especially for a guy who's just getting his first, real work as a starter, as a full-time starter, I should say. And then he tore his ACL. He did all of that. He looked amazing, and then he tore his ACL. So my question to you, and I'm going to ask this question to you, Couch. I mean, how much should I weigh that ACL in, given 2 things? Number 1, we live in 2024 now, where ACL is no longer a death sentence, and 2, this is kind of what you talked about with I don't remember if it was Brees Hall. I think it was Brees Hall. You were saying how he comes off an ACL. The first year off an ACL is not really that great, but then that year after, once they have a full year of resting off of that, then they're back. And if we're talking about a young rookie running back, I mean that's all right, right? So what are you thinking of that?
Athleticism also factors into it when I looked at the data from my
Okay.
doc. So if they're athletic, so he was always saying, like, look at Saquon. Saquon was debatable, but again, debatable, not totally wrong, because that was a weird circumstance when he came back. But he mentioned other players, and it was right all the time. Like when they're young and athletic off the charts, that makes the ACL even less of a like severity. Like And then, so I'm seeing November 11th is when he tore it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of early.
It was
Um,
early on.
yeah. Well, not, yeah, I guess not super early, but I guess not late either. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of dynasty, I guess I wouldn't really care too much. I mean, if you need him this year, you know what? If you need him this year, maybe it's not the best because it's going to be an 80% chance he's going to go to a team that has a running back already.
I'm with
Anyway,
you.
that's just the thing, it's just 80% of teams already have, two backs or, already have another running back. So they may ease him in. And he's a rookie and he's
Okay.
coming off the ACL and there's hardly any workhorses. But if you don't absolutely need him this year, then I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Now I wanted to save the pro comp for last because maybe this might change your opinion. Okay. Now again, I'm not a pro comp guy, but it just so happens for Jonathan Brooks' couch, this one is just screaming at me. It's way too obvious, and you are gonna be shocked. You're not. You're gonna be very surprised what's about to come out of my mouth. Jamal Charles, easily. That
Mm.
is the easiest, low hanging fruit pro comp for Jonathan Brooks. Does that change your opinion at all?
That's Jameer Gibbs pro comp.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you're saying not that far off from Jameer Gibbs.
Not that far off. That's what I see from a talent
Yeah.
perspective, right? I think it's more of the fact that the RB position is getting devalued. You might not see him picked, round one. Maybe someone picked him round two, right? But and the talent level is there.
Yeah, but it's exactly what I said. And so now we just transition. I just said the name Jameer Gibbs.
Right.
And we're 1 year later after he got drafted. He proved himself. He was better than I thought, and I liked him. So you know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
and he had a slow start. And he didn't have an ACL injury. You see what I'm saying? So we're
Very
looking
true.
at a
You're right.
guy who's probably just as good as Gibbs or worse, and is going to probably be splitting time his first year, at least in the beginning. Like it's just the way it
Yeah.
is, and that's probably without the ACL. That's a likely scenario. So now you throw in the ACL, and I'm just saying you got to expect a slow start. Brees Hall, slow start in the season, like same thing. And then Dalvin Cook goes to the Ravens. It's like that. Hey, we don't even need
Right.
any running back. Michael Carter, you're out of
We're
here.
done. Yeah.
Like we just like this. We got Brees Hall. Like, what are you doing? Like, but it
Yeah.
wasn't like that in the beginning of the year. Like, hey, we need Dalvin Cook. We need to pay Dalvin Cook a ton of money for some reason. We still
Yeah.
need
That
Michael
was crazy.
Carter, and we still need some other random guy. Like,
Vanakanda, Zonovan Knight. They had those
yeah,
guys
they
in the roster
drafted.
at
Yeah,
some
they
point.
drafted
Yeah.
Izzy. Or yeah, and they had yeah. So it's like that's just what it is. So I mean, like I think you're already pushing it when you're expecting a lot out of a rookie running back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so if you get a guy like this, like I said, ACL and this and that, because it's not just us as fantasy guys. Do I worry about the ACL? Let's think real. Let's stop talking about fantasy for 1 second. The GM who's drafting this guy, he's drafting it for a team. He's drafting and putting his job on the line. He is drafting a guy with an ACL, so he's got to keep that in mind. I mean, it's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
dumb. Like if you don't have a running back to just go get an ACL, it's just too risky. I wouldn't say dumb. It's just too risky and not something a GM would do. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
Especially when you be like, I can go get a cheap running back. Like I can go get a guy. Like the Chargers went out and got Gus Edwards, for example. Like he's not a great guy. He's a good runner, not a good pass catcher. Like we can go get a guy like Gus Edwards for cheap. Matter of fact, we probably are 75, 80% chance we already have another running back on the team. So we don't even need to worry about it.
I'm with you. I totally agree with you, by the way. But I wanted you to say that because that actually leads directly into another point that I have about Jonathan Brooks. Okay. Pull up that sleeper draft board real quick. Okay. If you look across the league, there is one team only with a very, very obvious need at the running back position. It's the Dallas Cowboys. And it just so happens, you know how the Cowboys fan base and Cowboys stars, Cowboys offense, you know how that is, right? So, like you just said, even if Jonathan Brooks gets a good situation, he's still coming off, an ACL injury, and Jahmyr Gibbs started out slow, and he may be as good as Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe a tad below, something like that. I have heard from draft experts and dynasty guys that I trust because they have been right about these things before and they've been doing it for a very long time. Some guys even longer than I have, right? So I respect their opinions at least. I have heard that if Jonathan Brooks goes to the Dallas Cowboys in round 2, that he might get picked in the first like 6 or 7 picks of a rookie draft. That to me is just a no-no. That to me is a no-no. Again, I'll fill in the gaps in the wide receiver class couch, so you know exactly how many names to look at. But based on what you've told me just now, I'd be comfortable. Again, this is if he gets high draft capital to the Dallas Cowboys specifically, who need a running back, and that's basically what they get. They get Jonathan Brooks and no one else, and he's basically projected to be the guy. I would probably take him earliest 1.12. And that's like I'm pulling my own teeth to do it. All right.
I'm telling you something right now.
Yeah.
Right now. Small chance the Eagles O-line starts falling off this year. A much bigger chance the Cowboys O-line starts falling off this year. I see this all the time. The
Good
Falcons never ran the ball well. 2022, they did great all of a sudden. Tyler Algier, he didn't even play in the beginning, got 1,000 yards. Like, what? This team, like, what? They can run? 2023, they couldn't really run that well. Like, it goes up and down so bad. Like, teams, their O-lines fall off so bad sometimes. We haven't really seen it too much recently, but Falcons are a recent example. It can happen. I've seen it not too long ago where just the O-line just falls off. Like, for example, the Cardinals had the worst O-line. They drafted Kyler Murray, mobile quarterback, and the O-line just became like bad. But they were the worst. They were like the 32nd, and now they're like, hey, these guys aren't horrible anymore. Like, they're like, I don't know what they were, like 20th or 25th O-line. But that's just from getting a quarterback. They didn't even mess with their O-line.
That's a good point.
So
I didn't think of that at all.
It goes up and down. Just look at the Falcons. Nothing big happened. Sure, as a matter of fact, they got Bijan Robinson. Like,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
The beast.
No, the coach gets fired. He doesn't know how to run an offense. He doesn't give it to the playmakers, and they couldn't run that well. It wasn't anywhere as well as in 2022. And I felt like the Falcons was like, man, this team can run it, even if they know like they're gonna get 4 yards every run minimum, so they could run it with confidence every down. I mean, they was just really good at running the ball in 2022. And they didn't even have great. They had like Cordell Patterson, Tyler Algier. Like, it wasn't like that incredible. It can fall off. And I mean, I'm very confident that the Cowboys O-line not what it was when we talk about them for like 5 years in fantasy. When
they lost their left tackle in free agency too. Keep that in mind. I don't know if you kept up with that. Tyron Smith is gone.
Been losing O-linemen. Like, it's not the only O-lineman they lost. Yeah, recently. Gotcha. Sure. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. That's why. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, like, because
okay.
Yeah.
not just older. I thought
it's not like a random reason. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like sometimes you don't foresee it coming. Like maybe the Falcons. But yeah, no, they've been their O-line. So I'm gonna go back to the Cowboys have the best O-line. Oh, the Cowboys O-line is great for fantasy running backs. We've been saying that. TV saying that, like, everyone's saying that. Now it was with Darren McFadden. That was with, like, I'm trying to think, like, Felix Jones. No, after DeMarco Murray, but yeah, Felix Jones, Darren McFadden. Around that time, it was you stick anybody back there, bro, and that's 1,000 yards. Automatic. It's that easy. And then they went and got Zeke. Incredible as a rookie. He's running behind that O-line. Like
Oh, baby.
anybody run Tony Pollard in 2022. Every time he touched the ball, he got 5-6 yards minimum. Like if he didn't get 7 yards, you're like, oh, what happened? Like he was so efficient. And I don't know, maybe I'm totally remembering wrong, but I think he may have been the most efficient running back in 2022 per touch. Because remember, he's just going off. He's averaging like 5.5, 7 if you count the
Yeah.
being like it was nuts. Every time he touched the ball, he's getting 5, 6, 7 yards. It was crazy, and that's why everyone was chanting like, Tony Pollard should start. And then he sucked in 2023, and so yeah, I think with Jason Kelsey gone. I think Eagles O line will still be good. I'm just saying though, small chance. I think there's a much bigger chance the Cowboys O line could fall off, and so just keep that in mind and make that mistake. That mistake you make could be much more fatal than you think. Taking the Cowboys running back way too early in
Yeah.
dynasty.
Love it. I'm totally in lockstep with you. Couldn't agree more. Let's continue on though with these other guys. Okay. Second one is, I believe it's Jalen Wright from Tennessee. Yes, Jalen Wright from Tennessee. Okay, why do I like him? First of all, one, he's got decent size. He's 5'10" and a half, over 200 pounds. So those are the thresholds that, at least from the, I'm not too much of an analytics guy, but if you remember from the Michael Carter draft, when he was drafted by the Jets, one of the reasons why I was not into him was because of the analytical height and weight threshold for running backs, because that's actually something I do believe in. There's a lot of good data on that, where, if you're sub 200, you're short, below 5'7" or something, it's just not going to work for you, right? Jalen Wright, he exceeds both of those thresholds. It's good. And he has what I call a complete skill set. Okay. I don't think he's going to be a bell cow. I'm going to tell you that right now. Jonathan Brooks, I do think, has potential, at least. Of course, like you said, situations, and there's only so many teams that had that, that type of opportunity. So it's probably not going to happen, but I think he could.
He can earn it. He's going to probably have to earn it. And he can earn it. And maybe earliest that would happen would be, at winter time, his rookie year.
Right.
But, he's going to really have to show up. Like, he's going to have to crush it on the field and in practice.
Mm-hmm. And with Jalen Wright, even if he does all of those things, Couch, I think he's still going to be in that quote unquote lead back role, right? That you're going to need to find a running mate for him to help him out a little bit, even though he has a complete skill set. What do I mean by that? I mean, he can run it through the tackles. He can stretch it horizontally. He can catch balls out of the backfield as well. Pass throw as well. Those are basically the 4 or 5 different things I'm looking for. Of course, there's other nuances like contact balance, being able to make those smooth cuts and have that speed and whatever. But he's got a complete skill set, and that's why I like him as my second guy. The third guy, and this is the only other RB that I'm considering taking. I'll go over a couple more names after him, but this is Trey Benson from Florida State. In college, this is my type of guy. All right, we're talking, if we roll back the clock a little bit, the whole world loved Najee Harris as the RB1 of that class. Not me. I was a big Travis Etienne Jr. guy. Bijan and Gibbs were definitely the consensus 1 and 2. But Couch, I remember sending you a rough draft of Devon Achane, and under the player comp, I said Barry Sanders. Okay, so there is a certain type of running back that just really catches my eye, and it's called the one cut, or the home run RB. Couch, this is the guy where it's like, you might give him the ball, he might only get 1.5 yards. You give him the ball again, maybe another 2 yards. It's not looking good. But then out of nowhere, this guy will just rip off a 75-yard touchdown. That's 13 points for me right there. You know what I mean? So that's why I liked Achane, for example, right? I don't think even though he did get the body of work in college, I don't think he was one of those guys who could be like a 3-down or an every down type of guy. Like, you definitely need a running mate with him just for the volume's sake. But man, this is the type of guy where it's like, give him the ball. He's so fast that, like, maybe he might get those 2 or 3 yard carries, but I know this guy's going to rip off a big 75, 80-yard touchdown run once every 2 games or every 3 games or whatever it is, right? Same type of thing with ETN. I think the Liz Frank injury has hurt him in that department, but he's a little bit better and more girthy as far as in between the tackles and doing the quote unquote the typical RB stuff, right? But reason why I like Trey Benson, one cut runner, he's a touchdown threat pretty much on any given play. And that is something that I have historically gone for in the past and historically hit on in the past. So keep in mind Trey Benson. Bad RB class, so they say, right? But he's pretty interesting to me. Just to round out the rest of the class, and these are guys that I'm not really interested in, it would be Tyrone Tracy out of Purdue, Marshawn Lloyd out of USC, Blake Corum from Michigan, Will Shipley from Clemson, and Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. Those are kind of like the next tier of RBs that personally, Couch, I'm not going to draft any of them. I'm in a Devy league, which is one of those crazy leagues where we draft guys years in advance. I already sold a couple of RBs from that tier because I just don't care about them. They're not going to do me any good in my fantasy football league unless like someone gets hurt. They have incomplete skill sets. All right. One last thing about these top 3 running backs, though, because I really want to pound the table for them just a little bit here. Okay. And then we can get going on the other. Go back to the other slide. You will. So look, I have this little chart for you. Okay. And this is the bottom line where when I say like, hey, it's not an overrated, it's an underrated, it's an underappreciated. People are a little bit too down on the RB class. All right. Jonathan Brooks, from a talent level perspective, where am I putting him in? Like we just said, right under Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm putting him in that Najee Harris tier. Now, if you remember Najee Harris in the 2021 draft, he went what? 25th overall, 24th overall, something like that. Late first round. There's no chance Jonathan Brooks is going late first round, but that has, in my opinion, more to do with how we value, or at least how the NFL values the running back position nowadays. Okay, what about the second guy, Jalen Wright? I told you he had a complete skill set. Okay, Javonte Williams and Ken Walker, 2 very different players, but they're both, in that similar tier of value. They're pretty good. They're not extremely sought after RBs, but after the Saquons and the Breece Halls and the top tier, if you're looking for an RB and all those guys say no, I'm good, I'm going to keep my guy, then you start looking at Javonte and Ken Walker. I think Jalen Wright is right there with those guys. I think he's right there. And then with Trey Benson, I already kind of alluded to this earlier, the Devon Achane type. Of course, Achane, Olympic speed, can't overstate that. But Trey Benson is right in that same mold. Even James Cook, right? James Cook was a consensus RB3 a couple of years ago. He's turned out to be pretty good. So people are going to tell you that this RB class sucks. You're going to see them drafted not very highly in the NFL draft, but keep in mind these 3 guys, in my opinion, pretty good. Okay. Shall we move on to the other weaknesses of the draft? We're covering a lot of weaknesses today, Couch. We covered quarterbacks. We covered the tackles, kind of, which are the strengths. But now we're getting rid of all the weaknesses here. All right, people are saying this tight end class sucks. People are saying this linebacker class sucks. I'll address that in a second. Let's first talk about Brock Bowers, though, right? I mean, man, people are getting excited. People are getting very excited. We did a full episode on him during the NFL regular season. I think it was like week 1 or week 2 of the regular season. So you can definitely go back and watch that if you want a more detailed analysis. We're going to go through it a little bit quicker here.
How do we not have this guy? How are we not getting this guy in our $250 dynasty league?
He's a first round pick, dude.
Yeah, I know. I swear, I know. But I'm saying, like, how is it possible? I'm not gonna have this guy on any team. I'm in 4 dynasty leagues. 1 I co-own with you. 1 I'm competing against you. I'm not gonna have no stock in him.
Well,
life's not fair. Like, what do we got to do? So let's do something about it. What are we gonna do about it?
Did you draft a tight end last year, like we told you?
Yeah, Michael
You should be
Mayer.
fine. You'll be
Nah, I
fine.
want
You'll
this
be
guy.
fine.
I
Oh,
want
you want the newer
one
penny, huh?
stock. Bro, it's not just the it's not any penny though. It's like that. It's like that
Pretty
penny you
penny.
walk over, but you're like, oh, that's worth $10,000. That's what this
Yeah,
guy could be.
could be, could be, could be. Let me get right into the concerns actually, because it seems like we're gushing over Brock Bowers. Um, I like him. No, I love him. He's great. He's awesome. Remember when we talked about the prototype? I gave you that little triangle. This is from way back. Couple
Of
might be
course,
last
it's
year
like
even.
it's
Yeah.
like a cornerstone episode.
Yeah. Good, good, good. Okay, so we talked about the inline wide. Those are kind of like your big and tall and wide frame. Those are like your
Traditional. Yeah, it's like a
yeah,
traditional
right,
tight
right, right,
end, like pro
right,
whatever. Yeah, what you usually
right, right.
think of when you say tight end.
Exactly. And then we talked about the flex tight ends. Those are your skinnier guys, like a Kyle Pitts, Jimmy Graham is a good one, Dalton Kincaid, to use later examples. And then we talked about the H back. And now the H back was like that weird Chigakonko Shannon Sharp conversation that we had, just to refresh everyone's memory for those who are watching and who also saw that video. Okay,
Aaron Hernandez, who was 6 foot
Aaron
one,
Hernandez,
played
right?
alongside Gronkowski, who's 6'7", I believe.
Mm-hmm. Now, generally speaking, again, I'm gonna start by saying this again. I'm being stereotypical with this next statement. I'm stereotyping tight ends. Generally speaking, if you're an H back, even if you're really, really darn good, you're not going to be that great for fantasy football. I'm thinking of a guy like Kyle Juszczyk, Couch. I know like you got the word fullback next to him, but let's be honest. Yes, I coach tight ends. I also coach fullbacks because they're the same thing, pretty much. It's just a different type of tight end, shorter, stocky, right? Now, we also, in that same breath, we talked about the H-back rule breaker. Okay, an H-back is typically a tight end two, so we're talking 12 personnel, one RB, two tight ends are on the field, and he's more of like your blocker. He's your body mover type of guy, while your Y is going to be, your receiver, kind of your do-it-all tight end, if you will, right? But then you have these rule breakers, like a Chig Okonkwo, where they're H-backs, they line up like a fullback, but they can also catch passes. So when people say Brock Bowers, his pro comp is George Kittle, they're completely wrong. Because Brock Bowers is not going to be able to line up next to your left tackle or your right tackle, take his uncovered steps with the offensive line, and make the +1 linebacker move from point A to point B. He's not going to be able to do that, unlike a George Kittle. George Kittle can do that. George Kittle can be a sixth offensive lineman from that perspective, from that alignment and
Yeah,
what he's doing
I
perspective,
get
right?
the comp though, because
Right.
George Kittle does. He's probably the perfect example of the ultimate hybrid because you can probably use him in literally any type of scenario. You could use any tight end. So I
Sure.
see George Kittle used as a H back a lot. Well, at the same
Okay.
time, you can spread him out because especially back in the day, he was the 49ers deep threat.
Okay.
So it's like,
Yeah.
so you could spread him out. He could be like, he could play with Randy Moss role, which is crazy. And he did in the Super Bowl when the first time Niners lost to the Chiefs. Remember on that like touch and go
Yes,
off
I do.
I
Yes,
did
I do.
not like the call.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Randy
Mm-hmm.
Moss play.
It was. Oh yeah, it
That,
was.
so
Mm.
and he can do the traditional. So I do actually understand the comp. Like he moves around, he does a lot of in motion. He comes or he it's almost like a pulling guard, or he runs around and
Yeah.
gets a block on the other side, and that's kind of H back stuff. And I get that, but yeah, at the same time, yeah, he's also used in the other ways. And you're saying Brock Bowers is not going to be used like as a
Yeah.
Y. You're
I
saying,
want you to think of Brock Bowers as number 44 for your team, but on steroids, because that's actually the better pro comp. He's more of Kyle
yeah.
Juszczyk than he is George Kittle. Now, when I say Kyle Juszczyk, though, to a fantasy football community, you guys are all thinking, oh, Kyle Juszczyk sucks for fantasy, blah, blah, blah. No, that's why I say on steroids, because this guy is going to be used like a Kyle Juszczyk, but get you fantasy points. Remember Kyle Juszczyk? He had that. I think it was the NFC Championship game. He had that insane, ridiculous catch on the sideline. That's not what fullbacks are supposed to do. That's what Brock
Yeah.
Bowers does
Well, I
on the
get what you're
regular,
saying
right?
because I'm a
Yeah.
Niner fan. Other people don't get. So, like, you got to compare. Like, so Kyle Juszczyk, he's like the sixth man as far as the skill players go. Almost every down, like he's the sixth guy. You know, you got 2, 3 wide receivers. They're getting the ball before him. You got George Kittle. You have another backup tight end, maybe. You got a running back, and you got a quarterback running some on occasion or scrambling. So he's always like the sixth option. That's why he just has no numbers. But I've also seen 49er games where everyone's hurt. George Kittle's hurt. We got no wide
Mm-hmm.
receiver. 3 of our running backs are hurt. This is the reason why we went and got Christian McCaffrey. We have a guy named like Trey Mason, I think, starting, who's
Jordan
like
Mason.
afraid.
Yeah.
Trey Mason, someone else. Jordan Mason. Oh my
Was
God,
it
the
Trey
guy is
Sermon or Jordan Mason? One of the two.
Trey Mason's probably a defender. There's a guy
Oh
named
boy.
Trey Mason out there someplace in the NFL, and he's better than he's better than the Niner running back I'm thinking
Oh
of. Is
yeah.
that Jordan? Was it Jordan? No, wait. Was the guy who sucked? The guy I always talk trash about. I talked about him trash on these videos like 20 times. Is Jordan Mason? Really? Wait, I
Sermon.
think he's
Trey
the other guy.
Sermon.
Trey Sermon.
Yes, Trey Sermon. Yeah.
I'm trying to combine. Trey Sermon's the guy I talk. Yes. So Trey Sermon's like the only running back. And that game, this was another, I think it was a DraftKings thing where I made some serious dough that game. I put Kyle Juszczyk as like my captain. And I was going nuts. So
I love it. I love that
yeah.
play.
So it was like the coach was like, bro, you're not playing anymore, Tracy. You're such garbage. And so Kyle Juszczyk was the lead running back. We know he can catch. We know he can, do all the fullback stuff and more. So yeah, like I've seen Kyle Juszczyk. He actually does all this dope stuff, but it's just realistically, he's a fullback. You're typically on a stack team. And just, in the modern day, like fullbacks do absolutely nothing. I mean, you really only see Kyle Juszczyk doing stuff anyway, if you ever see
Yeah.
a fullback do stuff. So I totally get it. I just wanted to make sure everyone else gets it, that it's not a weird comparison or a weird downgrade, because Kyle Juszczyk is amazing. And when he gets his number called when everyone else is hurt, he was like the all-star. He was the star player on the offense for one day at least. I've seen it.
Sure. So just imagine Kyle Juszczyk is now like the go-to guy of San Francisco. That's pretty much what you're getting with Brock Bowers. You're getting a guy who is, yes, Couch, you will see, like Kyle Juszczyk, you will see Brock Bowers get the ball with rushing statistics. I promise. I promise you'll do that, because he's got 2 things. He's got those little sweepers going horizontal stretch of the field, and he can line up, as that lead blocker position. They can just give him the football, and he can just pound it, through the middle of the offensive line. Okay. One more thing here is that his route tree, and we discussed this in detail in that previous episode a year back, is insane. For a tight end, it is insane. You have a pretty balanced route tree as far as shallows versus intermediate or deep routes. He's got the 10-yard basic, he's got the bubble, he's got the drag hitch, he's got a shovel route, he's got the spot, all in his bag. He's got corners, crossers, fades for tight ends. Are you kidding me? That's insane. Posts, wheels, goes, flies. I mean, he's got speed. That means he can tell you, he can, they like to have him on that 9 route, the go route, the vertical, just take the top off. He's got the speed for that, right? So he's got a really, really complete, versatile skill set from a running perspective, from a receiving perspective, and from a blocking perspective. The only issue for me is that, that, like I said, with George Kittle, he can be on the line of scrimmage, be that 6th offensive lineman. Brock Bowers really can't. It makes the fit interesting, right? Because typically in 11 personnel, you'd have that tight end help out with the offensive line. But now you're going to be in a situation where if you're running Brock Bowers out, you're really not going to have him as the offensive lineman. Okay, if you have 2 tight ends on the field, then you can put him, I like that fullback. But with 1 tight end, you're probably going to have him be more of that flex Dalton Kincaid role, which is a really, really bizarre combination. If you think about from that square, you had, H backs, Ys, and Fs. And I told you that it's kind of like a spectrum, like a three-way spectrum. If you have a guy that's in between the H back and the flex tight end, that is just a very strange combination because of the way they're built. Right? H backs are shorter, thicker, stockier. Flex tight ends are thinner, taller. But you have a guy who is a hybrid of those two. Very strange. Very strange, but very cool. He's a once in a lifetime type of player. I don't think we're
The
going to see a guy
talent,
like this.
the talent is off the charts, and that's what
Yeah.
I'm putting most of my eggs in the basket with. Yeah, I know not a lot of H backs did great. Like we see like one every like 9 years. I get
Yeah,
that,
if at
but
all. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
the talent, the talent
Crazy.
is off the
Crazy.
chain. Now I got a kind of interesting comment here,
Sure.
so I want to see what your thoughts. Roger, he said Bowers is great in a zone defense, not so much in man to man coverage.
Yeah, I mean that's typical with tight ends. Sorry, that's typical with H backs. Okay, so tight ends, we're not as fast as receivers. Okay, we're not as route running or twitchy or whatever, right? So how do we find separation? Two ways. Well, we're tight ends, right? We're bigger than receivers. So we either use our size to our advantage, like a Gronkowski. He's got two guys on him. He says, "Get the heck off of me," and he makes the catch anyway. Okay, or you have the Travis Kelce's of the world, where it's like, he's able to look at the defense zone coverage specifically to bring this question back into it and kind of pick apart and find those soft spots of the zone, green grass, where he just kind of sits in there. Mahomes finds him yards after catch ability, right? So I agree with this. Bowers is a great zone defense guy because that's how he gains separation. That's how he wins, and not so much in man-to-man coverage because he's only 6'3", 243. And 243, by the way, that's his combine weight. I 100% know he's not playing at 243 because he said it before. He plays at 238, 235,
Yeah,
238. So he's
and
even lighter than that.
all he has to do is get drafted by like the Chiefs or Ravens, where teams can't play man against you, and then he'll be good.
And it's over. Right.
Chiefs, that would be crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Chiefs would be
So I mean
nuts
that's
if he goes there.
Chiefs would be nuts. I got one that I was talking to who was it? I think I was Cash. Yeah, I was talking to Cash, one of the captains here on the Couch Discord, about landing spots for Brock Bowers. Just because I was telling him like, yo, this is like a really weird fit. Like he's not exactly a Y, but like he could still be an 11 personnel guy. And man, the one that I kind of pondered over based on where their positioning is in the draft as well is actually the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, because Tyler Boyd, he was kind of like their quote unquote big slot. He's now gone. They still have Jamar Chase. That's an established wide receiver. Okay, T. Higgins,
question mark right
question
now.
mark, right? Yep.
Yeah, he's on the
Franchise
team
tag.
for now.
Right. But they have an opening there that kind of works for Bowers. And if you remember, there's this one game, and keep in mind, this is a team that's built, again, we're talking last year, Joe Mixon was their RB. They had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, right? So this is an RB wide receiver-centric team with Joe Burrow at quarterback. And if you remember last year, maybe 2 years ago, I forgot what it was, there was this one random game where, like, you just saw all the tight ends for the Bengals just go nuts. I think it was like a Thursday game or something. Like, I think they had 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns in the game, and all of them went to the tight end. So this is a team, to me, that tells me that, hey, they want to use the tight end position. They just never had that dominant guy.
I always had that gut feeling. It's just more of a guess, more of a feeling. Like, man, I wish, but I knew better. Like Irv Smith, I'm not falling for this, and whoever, I don't know, Drew Saint. Like, it's just a bunch of names. I don't even remember. I'm like, man,
Tyler
I'm
Kroft.
not Tyler Croft. I'm not falling for this crap. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, we see him score on occasion, but Bowers would be awesome there.
Yeah, that would be a
amazing.
dream fit for me.
Who's their running back? I don't even remember right now.
Right now it's Zach Moss. They signed a guy in free agency, Zach Moss.
Oh, I don't think he's a good catcher. So, yeah.
So I think that's a really, really good fit there. Richard's got a pretty good question if you want.
It's a
So that'd
crazy
be
question
crazy. Yeah.
to take a risk like this. Richard's asking, who has a better chance of being the top tight end next season, Laporta or Bowers? I mean, Laporta's pushing top 3, you may be top 5, and you're talking about a rookie? I can't take that
Um.
type of risk.
Yeah.
Imma have to say Laporta. It's just too risky. I'd have to go with the guarantee.
Yeah. And one more thing, I have no idea what team Brock Bowers is on. Right. I mean, look, I was sitting here 1 year ago, really pounding the table for Michael Mayer. I was sitting here a couple of years back, earlier than that, pounding the table for Kyle Pitts. Now I think people are more excited about Pitts now that he has Kirk Cousins. But I mean, that just tells you that, like, the quarterback really matters here. So,
And the coach too, and it goes
and
to
the coach
the
too.
and the
Yeah, yeah.
coach too, because the
How
system
they're used.
is
Right,
it's huge. Yeah, it's
right.
just, a lot of this matters.
So just
Yeah,
because
but
I know that
Bengals would
Laporta is
be
going to be
cool.
there, yeah,
Yeah,
Bengals would be a
Bengals.
cool landing spot. I think let's assume he's on the Bengals. I still think I'm taking Laporta for redraft. Okay, just because he's the sure shot thing. But dynasty, I've always thought Bowers was more talented. So more than likely, I'm going to be taking more Brock Bowers or more. If I were to answer that question, who's going to be the better dynasty tight end? Probably go
That's
with Brock Bowers.
tough. You'd rather take Bowers over Laporta,
I
and
would.
I do believe Bowers has more potential. I'm gonna plead the fifth on who I'd take, because I think
That's that's
passing up
that's the right
on
answer.
Laporta, I need to passing up on Laporta is insane in Dynasty because he's so proven. He did all that his rookie year. He's so reliable. I mean, he's so for a rookie tight end, the floor was insane. Like it was awesome. Like that's the type of tight end you need.
Yeah.
But I do think Bowers has more potential. I really do. And
Yeah.
that's crazy. All right,
I mean,
moving
that's the
on.
right answer. What you're saying is the right answer. Yeah. What you're saying is the right answer, though. I
But
plead
he
the
asked the
fifth,
question. That's your
and
answer. You'd rather
yeah,
take Bowers, and
I would rather take
that's a
Bowers,
little
though. Yeah.
surprising,
I
but
think
I
you're
mean
giving the
that's
right answer,
hey,
though. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about the rest of these guys, though. Okay. I did want to, stop and talk about Brock Bowers for a moment there because, I mean, let's be honest, Couch. He's basically the tight end class. Okay. Um, Before we talk about the rest of these guys, I just want to give you a brief refresher on how I evaluate as a tight end coach this position, right? We kind of talked about a little bit the three prototypes, Y, flex, and H-backs. The five things that I'm looking for is technique, that's run game and receiving game, stuff like drop probability, catch, tuck, and turn. Those are some receiving techniques that I'm looking for. Natural ball skills. Keep in mind, a tight end is a half O lineman, half receiver, so the ball skills are sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, right? So you're looking for that. Physicality, basically your willingness to be a dog, if you will. George Kittle is the number one tight end in the physicality department, closely followed, in my opinion, number two all time, Rob Gronkowski. So that's physical. Okay. Power is your actual raw ability, right? Now, just to give you a better picture of what I mean by power, okay, Trent Williams, I know he's not a tight end, he's a left tackle. That guy is like straight power, okay? That guy is just a freaking freak of nature. He's just big. He will just bulldoze right through you. He's physical too, but man, he's one of the most powerful human beings. Aaron Donald, I know he's not in the NFL anymore. That guy's just one of the most powerful human beings, not just in the NFL, but honestly on this planet, okay? And then, of course, we talked a little bit about separation with that question about man coverage versus zone. Those are the five things that I'm looking for. A lot of people want athleticism and that fluidity and everything else like that. Look, the way I think of this is like, hey, I don't want you to be unathletic, okay, but I don't need you to look like David Njoku for you to be, considered a good tight end in my book. All right. So with that being said, I wanted to, because it's a smaller tight end class and because it's a quote unquote weaker tight end class, and the same thing applies for linebackers, I kind of wanted to combine the rankings a little bit just so put a little bit more context to the weakness, right? How weak is weak, okay? First of all, I think it's a little bit underrated, okay? So Brock Bowers aside, he is the tight end one. He's going to go in round one of the NFL draft and probably round one of your fantasy football rookie drafts. All right. There's these 3 linebackers who are pretty good. I think they're not going to go round one of the NFL draft. I don't think they're going to go round two either. I do think you're going to see these names pop up in round 3, though. And, I'm not a big IDP guy, individual defensive players to score fantasy points. I don't play a ton of that. But, I understand some of these linebackers are.
How many
They
IDP
might be
leagues
on your
are you in?
radar.
One?
So I run one and I'm in one. So if you want to count that as 2, because I at
Two.
least keep in mind.
Wait. Do you play in the one you run in?
No.
You're
I'm like a
just doing
13th
commish.
guy.
You're
Just
like a
commish,
saint.
yeah.
You just be doing good deeds and going
They
unnoticed.
pay me. So that's
What?
Cool.
They
Yeah.
pay you?
They pay me to be a commish.
You're like a referee.
I'm like a referee. I do a good job. I'm like an entertainer and a referee, and both of those things.
This is professional level stuff here. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
And and I like being in that league because I can learn about IDP. I can see the scoring each week, each year.
Yeah, we'll count that as 2. That's a pretty big number.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, these are some of these linebackers. Again, I'm not going to go over their names, but I think they have some upside for IDP starters on a team, right? Now, there's 3 guys there. Those guys are going to go round 3. And again, these are the top linebackers, right? So if they're going round 3 of the NFL draft, that tells you that it's not the strongest position, right? Another thing about linebackers and tight ends, kind of, this has been the position's kind of been treated like RBs in a way, where it's getting a little bit devalued. You can kind of just put in anyone and get some production, right? After that first tier of linebackers, which is not very impressive, that's where I'm going to put my tight end 2. This is not your consensus tight end 2 couch. You're going to go on Fantasy Pros and these other websites and whoever you trust online. They are not going to have Ben Sinnott as their tight end 2. I absolutely will. My pro comps to you, you're going to love them both. You're going to love them both. It's Sammy Ballgame, Sam Laporta, and Trey McBride. This guy is one of those breeds. He's one of those guys. I think coming out of college, I think Sam Laporta was way more NFL ready. Okay. As you know, I was not the biggest fan of Trey McBride coming out of college because I thought he was more on the raw side. And then, I'm starting to turn the corner a little bit based on, his progression and what he's learned from year 1 to 2. All right. Still not fully there, but he's good. He's good. Trey McBride, he's good. I'm willing to accept that he's pretty good. So Ben Sinnott, I would rank as prospects coming out. I would say Sam Laporta 1, Ben Sinnott 2, and then Trey McBride 3. Okay, so I don't think Ben Sinnott is as polished as Sam Laporta, but I do think he is more pro ready than Trey McBride was as a rookie. That makes sense, right? Now, big thing to know here is that Sam Laporta's got Jared Goff. Trey McBride has Kyler Murray. Who does Ben Sinnott have? We don't know. Okay, so if he's got a really bad quarterback who cannot even produce 2 wide receivers in a fantasy football context, then forget about it. Okay, at least for now. But if he's on, I'm not going to use the Bills because they just drafted a guy. But if he's on, let's say, give me a good team, Couch. Give me a good team that needs a tight end.
Whatever team Mitch Trubisky's on. Oh, he's not. He's not on a team. No, he's actually. I don't think he's on a team.
Trick question. Let's go back to the Bengals. Okay, let's say the Bengals don't pick a tight end round 1, and they pick a later guy like Ben Sinnott. Okay, now I'm interested because Joe Burrow, I believe he can, produce multiple receivers. Not believe, he's done it before. He's proven that, right? So very interesting for Ben Sinnott. Jeremiah Trotter.
Let's not talk about the Jets.
We're not talking about the Jets.
One of those weird teams.
I
How about the Chargers? Can we talk about speaking of cursed teams? Can we talk about the Chargers? They might need a tight end, right? They might need a tight end.
They could actually.
Yeah, they could.
Oh, you know what?
Justin Herbert.
Hey, Jim Harbaugh loves tight ends, and they just lost Gerald Everett in free agency.
Yeah, and they lost Keenan. They don't really have a lot of receivers.
Yeah,
Eckler too, right? Who catches
Eckler's gone,
Keenan's
gone, Mike Williams gone, Gerald Everett gone. Their entire skill positions is
that's
gone.
Basically every target.
Yeah,
it's literally every target.
Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton right now.
We don't need a chart. We don't need one of those. What's it called? What
The depth
targets?
chart.
I'm talking about. No. I want to say evacuated. That sounds like I'm just taking a dump. The targets like left over, like targets that are
Oh,
like from last year.
vacant,
What's
vacant
the word?
target.
Vacant, not
Vacant.
evacuated. Evacuate's taking a dump. Vacant, vacant. Like, hey, I'm gone. I'm out of here. Vacant.
Yeah.
Vacant chart. We don't need a chart. This is literally 100%. They're
Yeah.
all gone.
All of them. All of them are
I
gone.
mean, Keenan Allen would get 11 targets, and Eckler would get like 7. So it's like, I mean, that's the whole team right there. And then others are gone. So it's like
Mike
other big
Williams. Yep.
players.
Right.
It's
So
like
that's
that's
actually a good
every
fit too.
target.
Yeah, that's a good fit too.
And
Because
we
again, I
like Justin
believe.
Herbert. Good
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yes. Absolutely. I think anyone who's selling Justin Herbert right now should sell him to one person only, and that's me. I will buy all of the Justin Herbert discounts because why in the heck is he at a discount right now? It makes no sense.
It makes a
Gotta
lot of
understand.
sense, but I'm buying. It makes sense actually. It's what we just
It
said. But
doesn't to
I'm
me.
buying. The price is cheap though. I like cheap stuff. I think.
Same. Oh yeah.
I think he's on a five. I think he's on like a super clearance.
Oh
Now, see, you're now, Richard. Now you're naming teams that don't have a quarterback, right? The Broncos, they don't have a. Who's the
who's
quarterback?
quarterback?
Stidham.
I don't even know. It's not
Okay,
Russ
you know
anymore.
me. Sometimes I could be wrong. Yeah, like you have to name teams that have a quarterback. But that's our
Yeah.
point. Like, yeah, some tight ends do have success with like average quarterbacks. That does happen. Like they love throwing it to the tight end, but sometimes it doesn't happen. And if you have a bad quarterback, like Justin Fields as a passer, for example, like he really
Right.
can't support 2 receivers. Like he just can't.
Yeah.
Even though he's putting up some fantasy points, he may be supporting one receiver like a DJ Moore. Like that's it. You do need a decent quarterback, or at least one that loves throwing to the tight end. So like
Yeah.
in a sense, you do need a QB like to make it happen. And we know like we named Joe Burrow and Herbert. Those 2 guys are gunslingers. Those 2 guys can possibly throw 5,000 yards in a season. Like no one will be shocked if they throw 5,000 yards.
Yeah. No, I'm with that for sure.
They will draft. Yeah,
That's
Washington for sure. See, Washington's Washington's drafting a good one, but Denver, bro, they're in a mess. I didn't look into it, but I'm sure they're in a mess. Like this is like one of those things where like you're crying every night. You can't get out of debt. You got like this one thing, like you just every night you're like, how do I get out of this mess? Like that's what the Broncos are doing. Some
Yeah.
people say the Russell Wilson trade is the worst trade ever in all NFL history. Now, people talk about the Trey Lance trade, the Khalil Mack trade, but a lot of people are saying Russell Wilson is the worst trade ever. I mean, you got to get out of that. They paid that man a ton of money. They told him like he can't.
Mm-hmm.
They told him he has to take a pay cut, otherwise they can't pay because of some insurance policy they had in the contract. So it's like, I don't think that's ever been done before, by the way.
No,
and not the
cut
team.
him with that type of hit, crazy.
Dude, the team wasn't like if it was one and like they had like 0 wins or 1 win, that's different. They're like, this is embarrassing,
Mm-hmm.
but like they weren't even doing that bad. That's why they didn't follow in on their bluff. That's why it took them a few more games for them to actually bench him. Because they were like still in contention. Like they still had a few games. But Washington for sure. Like I guess I see how you can include that because they're getting, possibly a really good prospect. But Denver's a mess. There is
Denver
vacancy though.
Yeah.
It's just
that's true, I guess. Yeah.
Might be a team you just want to kind of avoid. I got Cortland Sutton in Dynasty, and I'm very happy about that situation. But like, I'm not like
effective guy though. Like you're not going out there and be like, oh baby, I'm about to go get Cortland Sutton on my team. You're more like, oh yeah, this is a pretty good value, good discount for Cortland Sutton.
Well, I got I mean, like before, like he had 0. Like I had to like cut that. I couldn't even trade him. Now I'm winning a Super Bowl with him. Like he's a good guy. That's what I mean. Like I got low expectations for him. He's not going to be like an AJ Brown or nothing.
Right.
But other than him, you may want to just avoid the Broncos. Like they're just bad news. I mean, look at Javonte Williams.
I know. I was just thinking of him. Yeah.
Like there's so many. Like you go there to die. You go there to put up goose eggs in fantasy. Like it's horrible. Jerry Jeudy. Name a
Mm.
name a speed slot receiver. KJ Hamler, Marcus.
Marvin Mims is no good.
All
Yeah,
these
Tim
guys is
Patrick.
like just avoid them. Like just it's awful. It's awful. So like your other suggestions, I totally get, except the Broncos.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
only one where I'm like, why? Like just avoid the Black Plague.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Let's continue on here though. Keep it rolling. Next linebacker, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's more of a sleeper. He's someone who has he's traits. He's a lot of traits. He's interesting. For IDPs, I'd probably focus on just the top three. Okay. And then we get to Trey Knox, who is. I have looked at a couple people's rankings. I think Pro Football Focus, Trevor Sikkema, and Connor Rogers are doing some good work over there. I've looked at Mina Kimes. I've looked at Brett Coleman. I'm trying to think of some other big ones. I've been looking at a lot of people and fantasy as well, right? BDGE and all those guys too. No one's got Trey Knox. No one's talking about him. We're talking like no one's got him in his top 5. No one's got them in their top 10. No one's even listing Trey Knox, which to me is
What do you
ridiculous.
top 5? What top what? Top what are
Top
we
5
talking?
tight ends. Top 5 tight ends in the 2024 class.
Oh, in the draft class.
In the draft class, yeah.
Okay.
No one's putting him.
But
Yeah.
the topic we're
Sorry.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's why
My
it
fault.
surprised me so much that I didn't like what are we talking about? You're talking about a top 5 tight end. Okay.
Yeah. No one's got him in their top 10 even. And again, I'm telling you, this is a weaker class, right? So like if he's pretty good, he should be somewhere there, right?
Yeah.
All of them say he's undersized. That's the only reason, in my opinion, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, from what I've read. They're not realizing that this guy's got perfect footwork in the run game. He blocks low to high. He's got great pad level. He's got good hand placement. And, those are all blocking stuff that we don't care about in fantasy. Fine, okay. He's got good route running. He's got a smooth release. His catch, tuck, and turn ability is very Dalton Kincaid-like. He's super fluid, okay? So this guy he checks all the boxes. He does a lot of things right. All the boxes that I want, are checked. The only thing is his upper body and his play strength, question marks there, okay? And he's not like a Brock Bowers where he's going to be, either as an H-back or like flexed out. He's not going to be like a Dalton Kincaid where you're not going to really ask him to block a ton. He plays the position where, he's going to be on the line of scrimmage with the offensive line, asked to do all those things and play strength. If I'm 250 pounds, Couch, because that's the average tight end, and I'm going against a freak of nature defensive end who's 280, 290, and with speed, I mean, man, who's got the advantage? The guy who's got the 40-pound weight difference, obviously, right? So that play strength is a legitimate concern. Just want to go more into detail about Trey Knox just because no one's really talking about him. As far as the 5 tools that I'm grading on, we already talked about technique, okay? Ball skills. Well, this guy is a former wide receiver. I think he just converted to tight end last season with South Carolina. By the way, he played with Spencer Rattler. That's how I found this guy. I was watching Spencer Rattler, and I said, whoa, who is this tight end? That's how I found him, okay? So, the ball skills that come with being a receiver first, those are natural, which is good, okay? I kind of talked about I talked about the power. The power is lacking. The power with Trey Knox is lacking. The physicality is not, okay? So again, let's separate the two. What is the difference between being physical and being powerful? Well, physical is just simply, it's kind of more like a mentality thing, right? Where it's like, I don't want to just win my rep. I want to take you to the ground. I heard this on a George Kittle podcast or something. He said, man, when I take a defender to the ground and I hear that exhale, like, they're getting winded or they got something taken out of them. It's like, man, to me, that's like me taking their soul out of them. Like, I won that rep. Like, oh yeah, like I feel that breath. I'm like, oh yeah, now it's good. That's being physical. Trey Knox has that, maybe not to the same level as Brock Bowers or George Kittle, but he's got that, right? physicality department is there. The power department is where he is lacking, as mentioned earlier. And of course, couch separation, that's the fifth tool on the list. Like I said, he is a receiver first. He converted from receiver, so he's got that in his bag as well. That's basically it. There's a couple more linebackers that I don't really care for. I think I have like a fourth round grade on them. And then we get to Jatavian Sanders. Okay. Now, only reason why I'm talking about Jatavian Sanders is because everyone has him as their. So to most people, the two tight end class, they think it's a Brock Bowers class and Jatavian Sanders. All right, I can draft Brock Bowers in round 1 of my fantasy football rookie draft. Oh, someone else beat me to the punch. No good, or no worries. I'm all good. I can get Jatavian Sanders round 2. I'd recommend not doing that. Okay, first thing. Number 1, his skill set is incredibly one-dimensional. He is a flex receiver. Okay, so he's like the Dalton Kincaid type. I would actually say he's more of like a David Njoku as far as the athletic, good-looking guy as far as like the muscles and whatever, and 6'5" and whatever, good size and good whatever. That's what you like with Jatavian. I don't even think he's 6'5" actually, but you know what I'm saying. Good-looking kid as far as like an athlete mold, super athletic. And then you look at like all the things that I'm looking for, like physicality, power, technique. It's all crap. So this is what happens sometimes in scouting, where it's like, a player, you meet a guy in person and like he passes the eye test. I'm sure you've seen those memes where it's like, the coach is like, oh man, this guy is 6'4", 240. I mean, this guy's a good looking kid, great looking fellow. He's gonna be a star. He's gonna be a stud, right? And then it's like, well, you see him on the field, and then you realize, well, he looks great from the eye test, and then as soon as you put him on the field, it's not that great. That's how I feel about Jatavian Sanders. I think he has average ball skills for a receiving tight end. I think he has average ball skills. I think his separation is very subpar. Physicality and power, like I said, is lacking. Technique, I'm not going to say he's got bad technique, but like, it's not like Trey Knox where I'm going to sit here and say, man, this guy's technique is insane. It's what you expect from a first year tight end, right? So it's nothing to be excited about. And I'm looking on the screen here. I see that best comparable player, Luke Musgrave. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Maybe I would say Luke Musgrave is a little bit slower. Okay, I'm very curious. What's the 40 times if we have him on that? I see 4.59 for Jatavian Sanders. I would expect
4.69.
4.69.
Yeah, it's a little small. 4.6.
Okay. What about 4.51? Wow. Jeez.
4.61. 4.61.
4.61. 4.61 versus 4.69.
Musgrave's kind of fast.
Yeah. I didn't
look at the speed
that.
score. Look at the speed. Yeah, because you remember the training footage when I hopped on this guy? I was like, man, he's smoking DBs in Packers training camp and practice off the line of scrimmage. Yeah. So he's very, very quick for his size.
Now, keep in mind, though, look at Luke Musgrave. He's 6'6", 253.
He's huge.
And he's faster than Jatavian Sanders, who's 6'4", 245. Really? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a problem for JT Sanders a little bit, in my opinion. It's a problem. People are just assuming he's the tight end, too. I don't know if it's because he went to Texas, Hook 'em Horns. They got a big fan base. Or maybe it's one of those things where it's like prospect fatigue. Like, remember last year I was telling you, all right, we got 2 QBs, guys. It's going to be Caleb Williams and Drake May. And then, of course, things happen along the way. So Jatavian Sanders, he was kind of always a tight end, too. And then he just kind of sucked this year, in my opinion. Ben Sinnott looks way better. Trey Knox, technically way more sound from a technique perspective. That's where I'm at with Jatavian Sanders. I think he's very disappointing. I would not draft him. One more guy just to give you a top 5 tight end for the 2024 class.
Well, look at these stats, though. This is 682 yards versus almost no yard. But I mean, we're talking fantasy, so I mean, like people's gonna. This
we're
is
also talking
criticism
college.
we get.
We're also talking college, dude. Like, how many of these college teams? Let me tell you what is advantageous for tight ends. Play action. I'm telling my OC to do play action all the time. He won't because at this level and at the college level, you just don't. It's all this spread formation, this air raid stuff. It's just make the life easiest on the quarterback. That's why you see quarterbacks nowadays have terrible footwork because they're just airing it out now. The coaching
Yeah.
at the Division One and Division at any college level is just not doing those types of things. And my point to that, to bringing all that stuff up, is that most schemes in college, they don't even scheme for the tight end. They really just don't. Like they might have some game plans, a little crossing route for the Y, little Y leak type stuff, a little Y pop in the red zone for a touchdown, stuff like that. Sure, like individual plays. But when we're talking about scheming up things for a tight end, that doesn't really happen unless you're at the pro level because you start running play action and stuff like that way more. So when
Yeah.
you show me these receiving yards, I don't really care. I'm looking more at the trait of the traits, right? Go ahead though.
Yeah, I'm looking into
Think.
this. There's a lot of stuff that's weird because this. So from this, I'm gathering he played wide receiver his first
Correct. Yep.
few years in college,
Yep.
and then it
At
doesn't have
Arkansas.
his last year. Yeah, so he's got South Carolina here. 10 games. Okay, 312 yards. So that's positive though. He switched schools. And he got more yards as a tight end.
I think there's a lot of traits here. That's all it is. I know he's undersized, but I think there's a lot of traits.
But what I'm really getting at is like, because before you talk about all these traits and technique, but like, are we gonna get? We need to get targets. Like we need to be, we need to be a go-to guy.
Yeah.
For the quarterback, which is usually a third down and in the touchdown, end zone.
Yeah.
I call it either goal line or within the 10, not within the 20. So within the 10, within the 5, and on third downs. I mean, if he's not that guy, and I mean none of that matters, because there's a bunch of tight ends have no idea their names, that they're good, but they're not getting any targets. You might see that like touchdown on be like, oh, the hell is that? That helps no one segment, but
sure. Couple things though. Not pushing back necessarily. Just a couple things I want to just address with that. Right. When I say technique, not just talking about blocking technique, man. Catch, tuck, and turn is not blocking. That is catch, tuck the ball, and go upfield ASAP. Again, tight ends are way bigger. They're not receivers. This guy is incredibly fluid with that. That's part of technique. That's not ball skills. That's technique. All right. Release packages and all that stuff, all technique. So he's got that going for him as well as all the blocking stuff, right? And then the second thing that gives me optimism of, directly responding to like that whole being that go-to guy, getting targets in the receiving game. Well, he converted from the wide receiver position. So this guy really should be a flex tight end, but they're using him as an inline Y, as a quote unquote a do-it-all tight end because he can do all of that. It's just questions about the size, man. That's really about it. So he's, in my opinion, he is a pretty good all-around tight end. Now, of course, just like the other two players we were talking about earlier, the quarterback's going to matter, right? Like if Trey Knox is going to the Denver Broncos.
Of course. The situation matters too. There's probably going, because in this guy's cases, there's going to be a good chance there's going to be a tight end ahead of him on the depth chart in the beginning. So,
and he's more of a developmental, I think.
Yeah.
More of a developmental guy too.
Now, Greg Dulcich, let's look at him because there's one other concern I had that. Okay, so this guy's 6'3",
he's gotten a lot of injury histories, bro.
Here's the thing, like I feel like if this guy pans out, I'm gonna trade him away because I'm tired of these. Like we hit on these tight ends and then they kind of die out, and not necessarily it's their fault or like we got it wrong, but like things. I feel like Trey McBride's here to stay. He's big, like like he can be used. Like he's just like
he's got a good quarterback too.
But like guys like Greg Dulcich, like we never thought, like we took a huge risk. He was a huge sleeper. We showed off to everyone listening. They were like, look, we hit on this guy amongst others. And then he just faded off. Like it wasn't just the injury history, but it wasn't just that. Like he got like replaced. Like he wasn't even And the new coach came and got Adam
Something.
Troutman,
Adam
and
Troutman.
yeah, he got
Yeah.
his guy. So it's just like I'm just worried, like if we hit on this guy, maybe he'll fade away. So maybe you trade him away. I don't know
I'm
because
with
I think
that.
it's because of his size. I don't know. Like I'm kind of seeing this as a trend. Like I said, Trey McBride. Like I feel like he's here to stay. He's a big tight end. The player profile sometimes is slow, but Greg Dulcich, wasn't he like this size roughly? He was a little smaller. He was a sleeper.
Yeah, sleeper guy.
Yeah,
Same thing with Trey Knox. Sleeper,
yeah,
right?
and it
I
panned
remember.
out.
Yeah, right. It panned out for a year.
And we did
I
a
remember saying the next
Chickaconquo too. We're like, we got Chickaconquo so late. Greg Dulcich so late. We're starting these
Isaiah
guys in
Likely.
Dynasty.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely. We didn't necessarily get him on our roster, but he was another guy that I was interested in.
I have him in the league
Yep,
where I won.
nice.
George Kittle and Likely's my backup. Yeah.
That's big. That's big.
He's a great. Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
good tight end.
I
Richard, I was
remember
about to ask
trading.
this. So where does Trey Knox go when you think in rookie drafts?
Oh, nowhere, dude. He's not even a top 10 tight end on anyone's list.
What? So in a
I told you that right off.
5 round rookie draft, you don't think he'd
No.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So the
So
price you're talking about
yeah, the
is
price is right, dude.
the price is free.
Free. Fifth round, maybe fourth
Oh
round. Now
shoot.
that I've put his name out, maybe someone in their league is going to draft Trey Knox. But yeah, if I didn't make this video,
By
no
the
one's
way,
drafting the kid.
well, I don't know if Elon Musk is fudging the numbers or something, but shout out to people who are on X. Hey, you know what? Like today, it's starting today. I'm not calling it Twitter no more. Shout out to Elon Musk. We got a bunch of people watching on X.
Nice.
It's the first time I've been
Shout out.
stubborn. I always call it Twitter. I'm calling it X from now on. I don't know what's going on. Every minute we get more viewers. I don't know if these numbers are right, but a ton of people watching on X. Shout
Yeah,
out
good.
to them. So we do actually have people watching live, and that's live. We're gonna, of course, post this on the podcast, and some more
Yeah.
people listen. But man, that's I mean, that's
Yeah, no one's
crazy. You know, all
drafting the
these
guy.
guys are garbage in round 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my other league is not super flex; it's a 4-round draft. So,
4 rounds, 1 QB. That's exhausting. Wow.
huh?
A lot
What?
of players
What's
there.
exhausting?
You said 1
It's not
QB, right? So I mean that those third, fourth round must be just
It's
man,
literally like the same thing as having it's just not super flex. What are
I
you
guess.
talking about?
Yeah, fair enough.
This
Fair
is
enough.
5
All right.
rounds super flex. That's 4 rounds non super flex. It comes out to being like about the same, even probably less. You think 12 quarterbacks will go here in this rookie draft?
Maybe like 8 or 9 in
Yeah.
Superflex.
So
Yeah, 10,
do
10.
the
Yeah.
math. Do the math. So that's
You're
less.
right. You're
It's
right.
technically less.
Oh,
And
brain
this
freeze.
year,
You're right.
QB class is deep.
Yeah.
Think about last year or whenever Kenny Pickett came out. Like it was no, like
Malik
this,
Willis, first round pick, baby.
yeah. Oh, bro, he was going in the first round.
At FFPC in our high stakes, he went first round of
He went
someone.
so early.
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh my
Crazy.
god. They keep drafting a quarterback. One day the Titans will hit.
Yeah. Just to complete the question, I would say Ben Sinnott somewhere in round 3, Superflex draft. Okay. And then I'm not drafting Jatavian Sanders because he's going to go in round 2. Someone else is going to like him. Someone else is going to take him. He's not a guy that I would be entertaining. And that's really it. I'm really just going to draft these 3 tight ends and just take my shot. You know, Brock Bowers, if I can get him, I have him in one Debbie league, so I won't be completely zeroed on my stocks with him. But if I can get more of him, I will. If not, I'm going to try to get me some Ben Sinnott and free ad Trey Knox because why not? Sure.
What are you doing in this league? You did you traded a bunch of stuff for players? You
Yeah,
don't have
I
any
basically
picks?
traded. Yeah, I basically cashed out for a roster pretty much.
I was gonna say I'll give you Michael Mayer for Bowers, but you're not gonna have him.
Nope, I won't have him.
Oh man, it's just I don't know, man. Fantasy football is supposed to be fun. I'm in 4 dynasty leagues, and I'm gonna have Bowers in 0. Can we make a move like in the $500 league or
We need a
$250
tight
league? We
end.
can't
I'd
make
be
a
down.
move.
We can. I'd be down. It'll be
So
tough,
wait,
though,
in
but
the
I'd be down.
in the $500 league, it makes less sense, right? Since we're like really
Yeah, no,
old.
we're not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In
So
our,
in the
it makes sense.
$250 league, we have a good team, yet we're still young.
Yeah.
Maybe we go sleeper running back route, like kind of go with the
Okay.
committee, trade away some of our big name running back. I don't know. Running backs suck. They just don't get any. You don't get
Yeah,
anything for them.
that's the
That's what's
problem. Yeah.
annoying. Yeah, which is how it should be. These guys are smart. This is a high stakes league, and running backs are not worth anything. Even if they're a win now team, they know they can't. They know that they can get a running back for cheap, or they're just not going to pay that price. Whatever, they're not
Yeah,
paying
right.
high price for. It's just not going to happen.
Whatever is worth it for us to move off the running back, they're not going to pay. We already know that. But
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we might as well keep him. Is this like
yeah,
Kamara, for instance? That's like our top guy. I'm basically referring to Kamara, who's
yeah.
like he's good, but he's basically done. Like we know the cliff is coming, and like really soon. If not,
Hmm.
it might already be here. But no one's gonna go get him. Would you
Yeah,
trade
I'm not
Pitts
opposed.
for Bowers?
Let's wait for the team, my man. Let's wait for the team. I don't know
The
which
team?
quarterback is throwing to Brock Bowers.
All right.
I have
How about if
no
you had
idea.
to decide now, though? Because this is people like fantasy now. You had to decide
Oh
now. Gun to
boy.
your head, Pitts or Bowers. I
I'm
already
gonna take
know what you're
Kyle
gonna
Pitts.
say. Oh,
I'm
I
gonna take
thought you were
Kyle
gonna say
Pitts.
Bowers
Yeah,
because
I'm gonna
of
take
because
Kyle
of the
Pitts here.
situation, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The coach
Exactly. Yep.
is on, and you got Kirk Cousins. I'm pretty sure the statement's right. He's the best passing quarterback, like who doesn't run. Like when you're talking about just pure passing, because all these other guys run.
A little bit. Even golf, he's mobile. Right.
A little, and that's more of a yeah, they throw, but like he's not a super gunslinger though. You know what I mean? Like I feel
Right.
like even though Goff is good and he'll get you 4,000 yards, I'm talking about someone who could get you 5,000, maybe. Like
Mm.
that's Kirk
Big
Cut.
difference.
Like he he's
Hmm.
he was I think QB2. We had him in a league last year, the throwing league QB2, when he was
Wow.
healthy. He was
That's crazy.
nuts. And not even getting rush yards. He was just slinging it. Like it was crazy. TJ Hawkinson and Jefferson were going off
Dude,
every
and
game.
now he's got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan. I mean, dude, this offense is gonna
That's
roll. That's
good
why it's very difficult for me to not say Kyle Pitts there.
because of
I
the
mean,
quarterback. Yeah, it's
yeah, Richard, it's tough though. It's not like an obvious Kyle Pitts all day
mm,
every day. Like it's tough. It's
yeah.
that one's tough. All right, that's a good question though.
Also,
Appreciate
because
that
we've
one.
also seen Pitts just be literally the most frustrating fantasy player to own the last 2 years.
Yeah,
Well,
but
that's a big deal.
to me, that's because of Desmond Ritter. But to your point,
And the
that's gonna
coach,
leave
and the
that taste in
coach, but
people's mouths.
mostly quarterback though. I mean, look, man, proof's in the pudding. They kept switching quarterbacks. No one was getting it done. Throwing for 130 yards and throwing interceptions is awful.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I mean, I'm blaming the coach too, but in reality, it is more on the quarterback because now the coach knows, like, all right, I'm gonna put the team on the quarterback's back. No, you can't. You can't do that because you got Heineke and Ritter, and both of them combined won't make a real NFL quarterback. So you can't do that.
Facts.
What you can do is hope the guy throws like 150 yards and you somehow win. And that's just the formula for just garbage. Like
Disaster.
that's not the modern NFL. Your quarterback's got to be able to throw at least 200 and do something, at least for a few games.
Yep, I'm with that. I'm
Bauer's going
absolutely
to
with
be
that.
Herbert's number 2 target. The thing with the Chargers that we talked about, we've had romantic fantasy discussions with Shane about Bowers going to the Chargers, but in reality, they
Mm,
need a lot of things. So they might go offensive tackle, they might
hmm.
trade down. I mean, what the list goes on, man. I got like 4 or 5 scenarios here I'm naming. Like, other than quarterback, like they wide receiver, like duh, like they might go get a guy like Neighbors or who the second or third wide
Roll.
receiver off the
Yep.
board. Yeah, like
Bigger
they
needs,
might go
man.
get
Bigger
Bowers.
needs.
Maybe they go down, maybe they trade down and Bowers is there. So they could
Very
go that. Like
possible.
there's just so
Very
many
possible.
things. Like they're just an incomplete team. I mean, is Gus Edwards is the number one RB? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
other than quarterback, it's a lot of question marks. It's gonna be a totally different team.
Yeah.
Totally
I'm with that.
different team.
Hmm.
All right, we're gonna end it
Different
there.
offense. Yeah.
Thank you guys
Awesome.
so much. Oops, I don't want that view. I don't want this view either. How do okay, no. No, it's not a
Go
good
back
outro.
here.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
all
you
I
guys
had
so
anyway.
much.
So
Yeah, we're done. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, wanted to say on the main channel, I will be putting videos out. Don't know when. It'll definitely be before the season kicks off, and definitely will be before you guys start drafting for redraft. So I don't want to say very soon, but definitely this year, maybe early. I don't know, maybe early summer, but give it a little bit. I definitely will be uploading some good videos there. Highest asked, the most asked questions, the most highly demanded videos I will release on the main channel. And we're going to be doing a part 2 of this 2024 draft extravaganza. So we will be doing a part 2 next week, right? Thursday. You'll be ready to
mhm.
go, Sue Shane?
Yes, sir.
All
I
right,
will be.
guys. He's a dynasty day trader. I'm Hussein the Brain. Yes, part 2 will be wide receivers. See you then next Thursday night. And of course, this will be on Spotify, everywhere. We'll upload the podcast. It'll be on YouTube, Fantasy Couch Podcast. All right, guys. Peace out.